Yeah, we're live. 7:27. Welcome back. Hopefully, everybody had a excuse me. Everybody had a Merry Christmas. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. Let me know in the comments when you get here. Did you get everything that you wanted? How many people actually got something that was like automotive related under their tree? Did your significant other or other family member, son, daughter, cousin, nephew, uncle, whatever? Did anybody get you any car stuff? Let me know in the comments when you guys get here and start watching this. Today we want to talk about 8-in-1 headers because people have been asking for a long time, and I've never run one, and I think I just need to bite the bullet and try one on the dyno. So hopefully that will be coming up in 2024. But my question about running the 8-in-1, I think I know we'll configure it so that it's kind of aimed forward of the motor, and then I'll just loop it back or to the side or something so the exhaust goes back toward the back of the dyno. So we don't have that problem, and so we'll deal with that if need be, but it'll sound cool. My question is this, and you guys let me know in the comments, and when you get here and you're watching the video, if you guys are not here on the live feed, also please let me know, how do we configure the headers? So I probably will end up building this, and I've never built a set of headers, so this will be fun for me because I've not done this. So I need to get a bunch of tubing together and bends and stuff and make them all go into, if you take a look at the thumbnail, I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. This is the thumbnail for you guys. So this is an 8-in-1 into a like merge collector. This one's from Stainless Headers Manufacturing. So shout out to those guys because I just stole their photo basically. So I'm giving them photo credit and giving them props because this is the kind of thing that I would want to get. And that's not something I would ever build. So I'm not qualified to do that, I don't think. I'm certain that I'm not qualified to do that, but I am qualified to do the rest of it because it's just a flange, and then all I have to do is make the tubes go up and then turn, and then they all need to go into this. So that there'll be a little rigmarole going on, but it shouldn't be too bad. I can make all that work for a dyno test, I think. But the cool thing is, or the question is for guys that are here and guys that are going to be coming here later on that are not here part of the live feed, but if you show up later and you watch this video and you watch it, because a discussion on 8-in-1 headers is pretty cool. First of all, very cool in terms of sound quality. So we know that there's a reason to put it on there just because it sounds awesome. Is there a reason to put it on there so that it makes power? Here will be the problem if I do an 8-in-1 header. If I do it, I don't necessarily know that it's going to be done perfectly or even correctly. I know that all the tubes will go to this 8-in-1 collector. So is that 8-in-1 collector the best one or the only one? I don't know. I will have to see. I may even have to raise some money here to be able to afford that, to test it. I haven't looked to see how much that thing costs. I don't imagine that the 8-in-1 deals, because there's a lot of work that goes into that, to making that. I mean, that was a nice looking one from those guys. So, but here's the question. When we're doing this and we want to run this, I would like to compare this obviously to some other kind of header setup we have. We have 1 3/4 or 1 7/8. So the first question is, how big should I make the tubing? Should I make it out of 1 3/4? Should I make it 1 7/8? Should I make it out of 2-inch? Let me know in the comments how big you think we should make that in terms of this header. I don't know how many different ones they have available for the LS, and honestly I don't know that it's not necessarily for an LS. So I think that this 8-in-1 merge is going to work for anything. We could put it on a small block Chevy or Coyote or whatever we want to do, because I think it's just going to, these are all the receivers basically for the tubes, however you make them come off of your exhaust, the exhaust out of the header, out of that flange. So if we get them all going in that direction, the question then becomes is, how do we hook them up? So they're going to have to go in, do they go in order? Do we want do we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Do we want that order? Do we want the firing order? So the firing order of the LS, next to each other, the first number in the firing order is going to be first, and then they're all going to follow the firing order as they go around. So we get one pulse, then another, another as it goes around, kind of like a Gatling gun. Let me know if you think that that's the way to go. Do we do it where they're, the ones that are next to each other are 90 degrees apart, or are they 180 degrees apart? What do you guys think that the optimum firing order or the optimum, it's kind of firing order, but the optimum order in the 8-in-1 this kind of merge collector, what order should they be in? How should they be arranged? Or do we get one, firing, then we want the next one, so many degrees apart to get scavenging from that one? Does that not matter? Do they all just go and the scavenging takes place from waves that are happening after the merge collector? Let me know what you guys think. I'm curious. I've not run one and I've not tested any, so I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I suspect, like most headers, that the primary length is going to be a big thing. What happens after the merge collector is also going to be some kind of thing. The merge collector itself will be some kind of thing. The 8-into-1 part, I just don't really have a feel for in terms of power. I don't know that that's optimum. It seems to me that from a strict like flow standpoint, that if we have 4 tubes merging into something that goes to a 2.5, or let's say you have a 3-inch collector, we have some that are 4 and 4.5. Some of these bigger dyno headers that we do, but if you only have 4 of the tubes flowing into that, ultimately the flow is going to be higher that way than if you have all 8 of them, because you're having this certain orifice size having to flow all of the exhaust versus having to flow half of the exhaust. So that's something to think about in terms of flow. Flow isn't the big thing. It's not my big concern when we're talking about either induction stuff or exhaust stuff, but there has to be some. So there has to be some consideration given to that. I'm more interested in what's going to happen with all of the different scavenging waves that happen with a header design, and there's a number of them. So I don't know what that's going to do. It's going to sound cool. plus it'll probably look kind of cool too, because it would, on the dyno, it would look a little bit like the 180-degree headers, especially if we mixed and matched, these things on the firing order. It'll look a little bit like the bundle of snakes exhaust that you see, like on a Ford GT, for instance, where they come up over the motor and then go back. They went to dual exhaust on those. This will go to a single, but it'll be a similar thing. So let me know what you guys think. So our poll for tonight will be, should the 8-into-1 header should the 8-in-1 header tubes follow the firing order? I mean, should it be, should the firing order, should the tubes be all lined up according to the firing order on the 8-into-1 exhaust? Basically, that's what that is. Should the 8-in-1 header tubes follow the firing order? People should understand that, right? That shouldn't be too hard to understand. So then obviously after that, then you put the flange on it and then you put the turbo on it, because then I honestly don't know why 8-into-1 would be better for a turbo, other than I'm kind of curious now. I'm wondering if the sound quality would be different on an 8-into-1 feeding the turbo, because the turbo tends to muffle or deaden a lot of the exhaust note generated by the headers, or in this case, an 8-into-1 header. I don't know. I don't know if the sound quality would be different on the turbo stuff. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you think that would happen, if you think that there would be a change in sound quality, not versus stock exhaust manifolds, because we know that going from that to a tubular exhaust to a header style exhaust definitely changes the exhaust note. I wonder if going from a header style exhaust to 8-into-1, if that would change it once we add a turbo to the equation. It'd be interesting, and maybe when I'm doing this, I'll have to figure a way to also think about this, not just in terms of the NA deal, but how do we then mount a turbo on here? So, excuse me, so that we can run boost into something from the 8-into-1, because you're going to spend all that time to make the header. I mean, why wouldn't you do it and make it so that it, so that it also turbo stuff? Because anytime you're full of, pure turbonium, all turbo-y goodness, then, only good things happen then. So I am thinking about running an 8-into-1, which would be cool. It just takes a little bit of fabrication, a little bit of tubing. We may even have some, Westech might have some kind of do-it-yourself header kits that are sitting up there with all their headers that the boxes probably haven't even been opened in, I don't know, 20 years or something. So it'll be interesting. We might as well put it to good use. And then it'll be a lot of straights and then a lot of bends, and or a few bends. We'll see. That'll be cool. I'm excited about it. So we'll try that. I'm going to try to get down to West Tech again before the end of the year. We only have a couple of days left, not very much time. I want to run all of the sloppy cams, sloppy stage 1, 1.5, 2, 3, whatever they have down there. Obviously, we're not going to be able to run, if they have a big one, a really big one, we're not going to be able to run that. But I would like to run those and see. The blowers have been sent off to the guys at Jokers. They have them. I think that they've arrived. So I'll be getting in contact with them to find out when we'll have ported blowers, or that, hey, Richard, what did you do to these things? Why did you ruin both of these blower housings? So that'll be cool. So we'll get that going. And then when I go down, I'm going to build a mock-up of the twin blower deal too. So that will be kind of cool. At least we'll be able to visualize it. What I want to do is I'm going to make it out of something really thin and just do a rough deal on it. So that I like doing that, so that it helps me figure, it's going to help me figure the new belt arrangement, because I don't want to have all the accessories on there. So I want to do a new belt arrangement. So then I got to figure out what to do with idlers and tensioners and stuff. And so that would be good. Admiral, no cat stuff for you this year. No car. I'm assuming that means car stuff. No car stuff. I bought a car for Christmas. Nice. What did you get? Daniel, let us know. Clue us in, man. No car parts because you're unloved. Is that the definition? It's either I got car parts or nobody loves me. I'm sure it's not all that. I'm sure there's more to the equation than that. I got a nitrous outlet Pro Max. Nice. That's good. Come on, camera. What are you doing here? Come on, work with me. There we go. Why are you zooming in on that? And just like that. There we go. Okay, need a 10-into-1 for modular for the V10. Yeah, that would be good. Each pipe has to go into the merge collector in the firing order. Okay. Car LS3 heads on an LQ4 for full built on a 400 shot. That's good. Did an 8-into-1. Would you need equal length primaries? I would think that you would. Only the reason I would say you'd want equal length primaries is so that all the cylinders are doing the same thing. I think 180-degree headers would be more practical to test unless you have a rear engine car or stick it out the hood like Kevin from KSR. More interesting. I'd be curious to see 8-into-4 into 2-into-1 in 180-degree firing order. Richard, we need to do a setup like mine on the engine dyno. What is your setup? Do a 4.6 modular, please. Never heard of modular with 8-into-1, probably because they're bigger than a big block and no one has room. Oh, so you want to do the test on a modular Ford? A whole lot of effort, not much return. That's really, for me, that's my YouTube. Where did you go? My camera's freaking out a little bit. I think I got a cord issue there. Why are you wanting to rotate over there? Let's get you fixed up here. There we go. What about if we do that? There we go. 8-into-1 and then back into 8. So just be 8 open. We are going to do that. We're going to zoom these. Equal length would be best, but for fitment, probably not possible. It's not probably going to be possible on an 8-into-1 because the proximity of the cylinders in their order relative to where this 8-into-1 collector is going to be. 1 7/8, 7/8, 2-inch primaries. Yeah, we don't run a lot of 2-inch LS headers, but we do have some. Five strokes, and I'm still alive, and it's enough for me to as well. You've had 5 strokes? That's a lot, man. Merry Christmas, though. Put 8-into-1 headers on the 8.1 because of numerology. Is that why we're doing that? The DDE 1500 horsepower Ferrari build is insane. Love the way that Mike does things. I've explored this a bit with my flat crank research. Had a wonderful phone conversation with David on this exact subject. What did David have to say? Has he done 8-into-1 testing at all? Put it in the firing order. Firing order circle for the order of the primary tubes. How about firing order similar to lug nut star pattern? Yeah. What are these going on again? They're just going on the dyno. Just two full-length headers all the way out the back. You want it so the pulse pulls the next pulse. Okay. Wouldn't the size be based on the power output and what RPM is? Yes and no. I mean, we run 1 3/4 and 7/8 on a lot of different power range, especially on an LS, which is what this will be on an LS. So 8-into-1 header will be awesome on a drag boat. These are going to go on, they'll be tested on an LS. Julius, I can't see why the order of the pipes going into the collector would change anything similar to 4-in-1 diameter of 1 7/8. It's the middle ground. Yeah, pipe length doesn't need to be even length. So you think we're nitpicking there? We do one for a 4.8 liter V6 Chevy. Were they 5.3? We ran them. It would a 4.8 liter would be a V8, and so would a 5.3. We ran them into the collector by firing order, not just randomly. Thing worked really good. Good. Richard, I'm going with the BTR torque cam, a cheap Chinese turbo setup. What else should I upgrade as well? Your 4.8 BTR torque video wasn't clear enough for me. You don't need to do anything. You put a torque cam in, I would put springs in it. I'd at least put the LS3 springs in it. The torque cam is a low lift cam, but springs wouldn't be a bad idea. Obviously, you're going to need injectors and a fuel pump and a tune after that, but a turbo and an intercooler and a good wastegate and stuff, you should be on your way. I'm feeling it will make no difference either way. Yeah, and it's not special agent. It's not like I can, alternate the firing order in the collector. I mean, I guess I could. It'd be work, and I don't know that it would be. I don't think it'd be worthwhile. The 4 GT did good with 8 into 4 into 2. Yeah, that was 180-degree set headers. Circle tracks have left side merged with some from the right side. No brakes. Well, let's see what you got. I've read a little about 8-into-1 collectors, and it sounds like scavenging is difficult with big collectors. If the primaries are run into a rotary sequence, it aids in pulling the previous. Okay. Always interested in the topic. Love what you do. Thank you. Welcome. Turbo acts like a muffler. Yeah, they really do. Pure turbonium. Makes me think of the Bank supercharged Duramax. As long as the pulses don't bump into each other, I would think that they almost have to. They're all merging together into a 3-inch opening. I would think the firing order alternating across each other like a lug nut pattern would provide the best scavenging with no scientific reasoning. That's okay. We don't have a lot of scientific reasoning here. It helps in pulling the previous exhaust pulse through the collector. See, I'd like to see that's happening, because I don't know if how far apart are they firing. So is one of the pulses all the way down the length of the tube before the other one is, and is that the right time to create some sort of scavenging effect? 1 3/4 equal length can do 8, 4, 2, 1 with 2 from each bank into 4 opposing firing order. Then obviously 2 into 1 from there. You've already lost me. I mean, I know what an 8, 4, 2 into 1. You just want to try Y header. World's first equal length stepped 8 into 1 header. Yeah. I mean, it does have all the buzzwords, and maybe that would help with the getting more views on the video. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of work. We have two 4-into-1 tubes on dual. Why would the order matter? Tube length and the rest of exhaust is more important. I kind of agree with that, Bruce. I think that, I mean, having not tried it, I don't know. So and like I said, the primary length we know is going to have an effect on scavenging, because it's not just the pulse drawing another pulse out. The scavenging effect from headers is much more complex than that. And there are multiple things, just like there are multiple things helping the cylinder filling on an intake manifold that don't have to do with one drawing the other or helping the other. Well, they are helping the other one. But on the exhaust, it's different, and it's not actually one sucking the other one out, like people are thinking. 8-into-1 to collector with all the primaries entering so close to one another, altering the entrance sequence. Would it even be measurable? I don't know. That's the thing. I mean, there's a very informative video on sound wave versus pressure wave done on an AMG V10. Mr. Three Phase, I don't know what your question is. There are a few LSs out there. We've seen some in the off-road buggies that have these 8-into-1 exhausts, and my opinion is that they did it for sound quality, that's a good reason. I mean, you can always use a slip fit on the collector so you could rotate the collector to see if any changes occur. But rotating the collector is not going to do anything. We'd have to change the orientation of the tube. If you just rotate the collector, all that does is just rotate the collector. They're still firing in the same order. Seems the scavenging would be better with an 8.4 and a 2. Ford spent a lot of money designing the GT40. If 8.4 into 1 was better, why would they have used it? Well, one of the reasons that they used the exhaust that they used on the Ford GT, which obviously was done back in the 60s, was for packaging, so that they could fit it, and for ground clearance. So it wasn't just because it's the best exhaust ever known to man. I've got an AFE cold air for my 19 F-150 3.5 EcoBoost. It's cats and tuned E85 coming soon. That'll be good. Basically, I have to run rear trunk cooling with a radiator in the back if you fit an 8-in-1 under the hood. Yeah, we're not going to do it under the hood. I did see something cool for sale today. A Volkswagen, the trucks, a Volkswagen Rabbit truck. It's a project, like all of them, but that really caught my eye today. So you're going to be testing this. I'm going to be building one. I'm going to run an 8-into-1. I bet an 8-in-1 doesn't make more than 180-degree header. Have you seen the celery tech? I have not. Is AMS Racing a good brand? A good brand of what? I'm not familiar with that name. A Crown Vic, and I want to try to fit it. If I did a pedal box and AC delete, it might fit. Usually they run them to the front and out the side. I don't think that I would ever try to do this under the hood of a car. I mean, out the back of a sand rail or something like that. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's kind of cool. I just don't think I'd do it on a front engine car, because it's problematic for packaging. And for sound quality, definitely is good. But again, I wouldn't, even if it sounded way better than like an X-pipe exhaust, which also sounds good on a conventional, dual header kind of thing. On a V8, the X-pipe sounds really good. And then you can get that even better with high compression and cam timing things. I don't think that I would go to the trouble of fitting an 8-into-1 on a vehicle unless it was a rear engine, rear exit kind of thing. It was on his friend's big block Chevy boat. Said the sound was amazing. Sounded like revving twice as much as it was. But on the dyno, traditional proper length headers produce more power. That doesn't surprise me. If you can't get the primaries equal length, then it's going to be difficult to get pressure wave action at the 8-into-1 collector because they'll arrive at different times than you have the tubes arranged. Yeah, there's a lot. There's hours of discussion on on that. Firing order counterclockwise, and when facing the rear of the header, maybe it will create a scavenging effect. You think as long as the pipes are the same length, it wouldn't matter? Well, and according to David Vizard, you don't want them to be the same length. You don't want equal length headers. I wonder if he thinks that that's the same on an 8-into-1. Richard, could you test this NA then weld the flange on to try to get with the turbo? That's kind of the plan. We talked about that earlier, Mike, about configuring it so that we could then put a turbo on it. You won't see anything like the turbo is just going to be a turbo. You get all the exhaust to a turbo, then good things happen. Good things are going to happen with the 8-into-1. I don't think any kind of magic is going to happen with an 8-into-1 feeding the turbo. I don't think it's all of a sudden going to be, 200% efficient or something. Is the 292, are you going to run the 292 again? Yes. Let's see. I'm scrolling back. Eric, man, you've been through some stuff. Hang in there, dude. The test is going to be on LS. Do the 8.1 LS big block. Everybody's seen the LS guys live more cubes. 496 is very nice. So do it on something different. That's what you're saying. And then 180-degree header. Those would just be 180-degree big block headers because the conventional big block bolts to that 8.1. Robert, 180-degree headers, in my opinion, sound not good. I would much prefer equal length headers. And a synthetically X pipe. Look at how boat racers do their 8-into-1 exhaust. I think everything we are talking about will be a small change compared to the actual difference in the power curve between an off-the-shelf header. Yeah. And we might end up just losing power. And then everyone can say it's the wrong cam. I need the 8-into-1 header cam. I watched a video on 6-into-1 V6s. I haven't seen that. Each side of the V8 is an uneven firing cross-plane force, so I think if you can equalize that, then afterwards, wouldn't matter much. Who's X-raying the 8-into-1 welds? If they're my welds, it's me, because I have X-ray vision. David, what's going on? After building a few set of headers, building them to the firing order shows a big deal of response in the car. It's just building them is a pain. So is it subjective feeling response in the car, or are we measuring something on the dyno? Have you ever seen the old vacuums you would connect to an air hose? The ones that you use to siphon? Yeah, I've seen that. I know if you're trying to equate that to how an exhaust pulse works, I'm pretty familiar. SolidWorks and fluid dynamic software to analyze each option. The best test would be to both styles, firing order versus opposing. Yeah, I wonder if I could do that with some bends so we could. I mean, I could make that work. So, but what would be I would only pick two options if I were going to do that. Herb Adams was a big fan, a user of 180-degree headers. He used them on Super Duty 455 and his Fire Ram. Herb was the father of the Pontiac Garmin. Yep, I remember reading about Herb's stuff, his handling stuff. Yeah, Mike, I haven't seen that. The weird tri-Y thing that you're describing. I think the Flowmaster muffler mandatory has been good. The loss is negligible. I have a solid 86. S10 for sale. Why am I interested in the Trophy 4-cylinder? That needs to run too. I don't understand the poll question is, if we have an 8-into-1 collector, how should they go? Should they go in the firing order? 2 strokes work on sound pressure waves. Yep. Stock manifold versus long tube versus 8-into-1 versus 8-into-1. That's a lot of stuff. It should be according to the firing order. Okay. What's the point of scavenging? Well, zoomies on a top fuel car, the point of them is downforce. Is the 81 going to be equal length? I don't know how it can be. Excuse me. I mean, it would be difficult to do that. It would be really cool looking. I don't know that I'm a good enough exhaust fabricator to make that happen, but we'll see. How about a turbo at the 8-into-1 collector with tuned shorty primary tubes? I don't know what you mean by tuned short primary tubes. I went, let's see. Let's see. Primers have to be equal length and they need to be in sequence in the collector. Okay. And what, no brakes, what are we basing that on? 8-into-1 sounds phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. Why would sequence or firing order matter for an all-into-one? I would think as long as there's enough length of pipe after the collector, scavenging will happen. The length of pipe after the collector, we know has an effect on power. How fancy would the collector be? Well, I showed a photo of it earlier. I won't be doing it. The photo that I have for the thumbnail is from Stainless. Let's see, what's the name of it? Stainless Headers Manufacturing. They offer an 8-into-1 collector already that you just buy it, which would be way better than me trying to make that part of it. Eight into one. If you don't do it according to firing order with turbo setups, you lose mid-range torque. Why would that be the case? If you lose mid-range torque with an 8-into-1 header compared to something else, NA, then I could see why you would then lose mid-range torque with a turbo. I don't see how you're going to just lose torque with a mid-range torque with a turbo on an 8-into-1 if you don't use the firing order. I don't see how that's. You'd have to lose it both ways, is what I'm saying. I bet in any case stuff will never happen. Nice. I'll have to look and see what diameter collectors they have available. I want an 8-into-1 TP style header with a vertical exit like a volcano. Okay. A 75 foot-pound gain. That's not going to happen from an exhaust. It's a bad time to ask you to do any more testing on the 396. I will. I'll run the 396 again. Looking to do an AFM delete. I have a video up on that, so you should be able to go through that. I'm here, present, and accounted for. Super Richie X-ray vision. That's right. As much as needs to be is definitely there. The advisor says equal length is wrong, but the reason is wrong is because a cross-plane V8 fires unevenly within each bank. That's why equal length 180 degree typically pick up power. In my discussion with David, it was in the context of a single plane V8 cranks. Also talked to Reeves Callaway and had one of John Lingenfelter's small book Chevy single plane cranks. I don't know what you mean by single plane crank. You mean a flat plane crank? And why flat plane works with equal length. Would be running an exhaust mount turbo. Yeah, that's what the discussion is if we're going to make that an 8-into-1, then we just make it with a flange so that we can run a turbo on it. Flat plane 4-cylinder. Inherent in the design. Mostly inherent. What size outlet collector are you going to do? Well, it depends now. If guys want it done on a 496, we would have to do a much bigger collector. I have to see what the collectors, what the availables, what different options I have. I want to build an 8-into-1 header for my 440 Winnebago. Over the long tube headers he had on the videos from the Bronco store, truck featured on the Hoonigan garage. I'd like to see a back-to-back test. The only time we've ever seen any sort of power gain or power change like that is when something was terribly wrong to begin with. And then you put something that's reasonably right. But 75 foot-pounds would be, like I said, that'd be a magical amount. Let's see. Will there be a collector camera to match the carburetor camera? We need a valve camera. That would be cool. The collector camera is not really going to show much. It's cool when you turn the light off, though. It shows the exhaust glowing. At the racetrack, I made them so I can run a 4-into-1 or 4-into-2-into-1. The primary is adjustable. The big difference was in the 330 foot at the track and doing 4-into-2-1 by the firing order. Did the best. I've made some adjustable headers before, and we've adjusted primarily primary length, but also collector extension stuff, and that has a big effect, especially on low speed power. Imagine if you feed the tubes. Let's see. There's a guy around a Ferrari V8 engine from a Maserati and a Subaru. The exhaust manifold on top of the intake. Oh, speedboat style, yeah. Have you done any work using David Vizard's header arrangements? I don't know what that is. Does he have some sort of specific thing that he likes to see? And also, people, we need to understand that header design is not universal. A 4-into-1 is not universally better than a tri-Y, is not universally better than an 8-into-1, or whatever other combination you can make. Because the exhaust that you run, like we've talked about, the cam that you run, the intake manifold that you run, the headers, the heads that you run, whatever it is, the thing that you run is going to be dictated by what is the thing you're trying to achieve. Like if you want, it might be that using the same engine combination, the exhaust that you want to put on there is going to be dictated by what you're going to do with that engine. Are you going to be doing it? Are you only going to be running the thing from 8,000 to 9,800? the exhaust configuration that you put on there would be different than one where you're trying to run from off idle to 5,500. So it, a lot of it is going to be dictated by the thing that you're doing it with. And so there's not one that's universally better than all the other ones. Big Bang a Coyote, that would be good. All of the Coyote guys would want an unopened one, and I won't do that. Trying to piece together my fuel system for a 5.3 turbo, planning on E85, torn between an inline MagnaFuel 750 or dual wall burrows. I like in the tank pumps. They're not as loud. They are kept cool as long as you have enough fuel in there. And I think you can make a lot of power within the tank stuff now. Bought some collectors from them in 321. Okay, not cheap, but they were nice. Yeah, I don't think that these 8-in-1s are going to be cheap. That's why I listen a lot versus texting back. I've been waiting on this one to see what the dyno test. I'm curious to see. I've never seen. I wish that they would do a dyno test on one. I asked a couple of guys that had these 8-in-1 exhausts on their sand rails if I could borrow a set just so we could put it up on the dyno and run it really quick, and just I could just make a Super Richie 180-degree tube that goes from that to just to the back of the dyno. I didn't get any takers yet. Maybe 180-degree offset for firing order could cause a lower pressure at the preceding tube or vice versa. And would it do that at every RPM? That's the other thing to consider. Have you ever talked to the people at Schoenfeld? Yeah, the guys at Schoenfeld do the headers already. They've done most of the headers. The guys at West Tech got their headers from all their dyno headers from the guys at Schoenfeld. I missed the twin GT45 and 454 chat, but it does get me thinking about twins on my Cadillac. It's all good. Just size the turbo for whatever power you want. And Nicholas, how much turbo do you have? You should just get, make sure that you have enough fuel system for that. I'm not Maurice. I'm not going to make my own collector. I'll just buy the collector. All I'm going to do is route the tubing to the collector. Ditch the LS stuff. Make every drag boat guy's dream come true. 540 big block tunnel ram, twin dominators, 8-in-1 over the top of the carbs. Yeah, I don't have any of those things. So you aren't going to make your own collector? No. No, I don't have I can't TIG weld, and you'd need to be able to TIG weld to make something nice. 7R wheel horsepower. Yeah, that should be easy to get enough fuel for that, Nicholas. I have a set of equal length small block Chevy square tube headers that were allegedly made by Dale Earnhardt's header guy. I think square tube headers would have any gain. I don't know how they would, since the exit of the head is not that. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried a head exit to work with that, an exhaust port exit to work with a header, or that's a header that they tried to see if it worked, and maybe it did. Maybe it did on their combination. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was a throwaway set headers because it didn't do anything. You just don't know unless you were there and have the whole story. Search, yeah, I know David. Search Nivlac 57. I know Calvin, so I am familiar with his stuff. The 85 Trans Am that was featured on Horsepower Academy gained 100 horsepower, removing the 8-in-1 and getting tune-like headers built. Yeah. That's actually more of what I'm expecting to see from 8-in-1. I'm expecting it to sound amazing and not make as much power as the stuff that we have on there. but we'll see. I have a single 450 in-tank, Holley fuel rails, Chinese FPR, and 80-pound injectors. What's up, everybody? How's everyone's Christmas? Crash, don't they all tune for a specific spot? Is that what you're talking about? And is that a header question? Headers are not a single RPM specific. Nothing in the engine is single RPM specific. It's usually an RPM range. Saw some cool 301 turbo stuff on TTA Performance. I did run 180-degree wide into a single 4-inch on a jet boat. Can I send you some equal length small block Chevy square tube small block Chevy headers for the dyno? And I actually don't want people sending me things anymore. It's way too problematic. I want to do zoomies, 2-inch by 8-inch, full chassis length. I've seen some stuff like that. The Boot Hill Express, if you look that up, that's a model that, and probably was based off of some sort of show car or something, but they had exhaust like that was really long and individual tube. Tri-Y is good for a 4.7 swap small block Chevy because it spaces out the pulses more evenly. I know a lot of the cup stuff was that, at least the exhaust that I've seen, a lot of them are a Tri-Y. I'm running a Holley red pump and a blue one on another. They are pretty loud. I remember having those. I'm not building 18-to-1 headers. I'm building a functional flying bridge. There you go. Let's see. Wow, I missed a whole bunch here. Here we go. I would figure that the stainless header guys would give you a collector for the advertisement. I haven't contacted them. Maybe they would. I'm a mod guy. I wouldn't care one bit about using a modded mod motor Big Bang to see what the stock bottom end is capable of. Not the heads and intakes. I am going to run a Big Bang 2-valve 4.6. I still think the best thing for a V8 would be a Tri-Y 4-into-1 setup. Take cylinder pairs that fire 360 degrees apart, and merge them, then take the 4 resultant secondaries and put them into 4-into-1. Okay. Are the L59 injectors bigger, or is that a flex fuel motor? I'm interested in seeing a Tri-Y more than an 8-into-1. I'd like to look around and see if somebody has a good Tri-Y to test. Is the tune in play for an 8-into-1? The tune is very easy. That takes nothing. We just make it the same air fuel and the same timing. My guess is it's probably going to be very close when we put them on. But that's really easy to do. The timing is not going to change at all, because that doesn't change when you change the headers. If there's a change in power or a change in exhaust flow or signal or something, if the power goes down, it's probably going to get rich. If the power goes up, it's going to get lean. We just adjust it accordingly. Gen 3 7875. That's a good turbo. What would you say is a good size turbo for a 3.9 Dodge making 250 to 300 horsepower? Well, Dylan, how much power do you want to make? A GT 3582 probably is good for that. That's for 500 to 600 horsepower. Sick one's out. I already bought snake eaters 1500s. I've used those and they work good. Can you put the thumbnail up again? Yeah, I'll show you what I'm talking about. That's pretty nicely done. But it's way better than I would be able to do. That's for sure. Ask Kazi if he still has the headers from his 4V he won. Oh, the modular stuff, yeah. Although even John admitted that he had to run them on the in the competition. He goes, because they really didn't gain him much. And he said it was way more work than it was worth. 4-7 swap merely shifts the firing sequence. If you plot out the firing sequence on paper beyond 2 full revolutions, you'll see. We haven't seen power changes from that kind of 4-7 swap. Hit to cam intake on a 440 with flat tops to make good power. They do. That's all every motor needs is that stuff. A single 525 will support 800 horsepower. Just, will it do that? I don't think it'll do it on E85 though, right? But 2 of those would be perfect. My 4.8 is friction seized, hoping the Thunderbolt motors can build the 5.3 with certain pieces I already have on hand. Are the pistons seized in the bore? Because obviously you're not going to want to reuse those if that's the case. Let's see. Send me the autographed $20 bill. Tim, were you the guy that asked about it originally? The Canadian one? I still have that sitting here. I was looking at it the other day. I wonder if the 821 would produce thrust more so than a dual exhaust or Y pipe. Do you have a way to test that? Are you talking about thrust to push the car forward? I'm actually liking the single GT45 for my 440. That would be good. No, I don't even really call Ivan. Not only can I not TIG, I don't really call myself a MIG welder. I can stick stuff together, but by no means am I like a craftsman or even a journeyman or even somebody that you should allow near a welder. Look up Lawrence Tolman. Yep. Family truckster. That's right. 50 yards. L59 is E85 5.3 Gen 3. Okay, so it does have the bigger-ish injectors in it. I heard a 5.4 2-valve with the 81 sounds amazing. I'm almost thinking that I need to run. I haven't run a 5.4 2-valve, so maybe a big bang 5.4 2-valve. Do you guys think that a 5? Well, that would be the poll for tomorrow. Then, would a 5.4 2-valve make more power than a 4.6 2-valve? On a big bang application? Which one of them would ultimately make more power before they break? Dylan, I want it to make 250 to 300 horsepower. How much power does that? That's a V6, right? A 3.9 liter V6. Doesn't it already make that much power? Setting aside header talk for a moment, what's your take on twisted wedge 2-valve heads compared to Ford 3-valve heads? Can 3-valve heads be modded to compete, or do the twisted wedge heads? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Doesn't a stock 3-valve head already flow more than a twisted wedge 2-valve head? I don't remember what the chamber volumes are on, because I know TrickFlow has 2 versions of that. And I don't remember what the chamber size is on the 3-valve. I want a turbo with 3.9 to make it 300 horsepower. Oh, it makes 170 stock. Then a GT3076, Dylan. Eric's out. A Bluetooth carb setup on a 440 in heavy Winnebago would be a dog, so I'm thinking about an MS3 Pro. Mike, it's 1E. I'm debating running either an LQ4 or an L92 in my LS swapped RX8 track car. Will the 100-pound difference with an iron block going to make that big of a difference when it comes to how the car handles? If I had my choice, I definitely would pick the L92. I would definitely pick an aluminum block. Also, is that the L92 is also bigger, right? I mean, it's going to be a 6.2, so it's going to make more power. A cammed L92, even with a stock head and stock intake, is going to make a lot of power. So that's the one I would pick for, especially for a road race car. Tuning a header, I'm thinking is your meaning. Tuning a header for peak performance at a certain RPM is handy. Yeah, but it's a header isn't just efficient at a very narrow RPM range. It's efficient over a fairly broad RPM range. It's like if you take an 1 3/4 header and an 1 7/8 header and you run them both on the motor, a lot of times you're hard pressed to even find any power change. Is a 4.6 a Texid block? No, the 4.6 would just be a 4.6.2 valve from the wrecking yard. I'm not building a dedicated thing. I'm just putting together an iron block 4.6. Would a foreign stroker kit in a stock 6-liter be reliable for a daily driver in any weather combination? I want a mild driver, but with more power. Yes, definitely. There are also ways that you could get more power from your 6-liter without doing a stroker kit and have it still be drivable. But if you just did a stroker on a 6-liter, it would be, and put a mild cam in it, then it would be good. The mod motor twisted wedge heads are fairly above the 3 valves. Pfizer did a recent video on this. I know David actually gave props to Brian Tooley, who's the guy that designed those heads. With welding, a lot of people care about how much it looks. Yeah, I don't get into any of that. Not with welding, not with anything. So I don't care about the ego part of it. That's not important to me. For me, getting the dyno test done is the important part. Richard asking if the 8-in-1 would make thrust like a rocket. Not any more than any exhaust would. If it's aimed back to produce thrust, any exhaust will do that. But the amount, if you did the calculation on how much flow that is, it's not a lot. If you were making 10,000 horsepower, then it's more. No brakes. A Cummins would be a good idea in a Winnebago. Well, 7875 ES Racing Turbo would be too much for an 11-to-1 4.6.4 valve. It depends on, you're just picking the turbo based on what kind of power you want to make. A 4.6.4 valve can make, I mean, you can make 1,500 horsepower from those or more. So it depends on how much power you want to make. Do you want to make a near 1,000 horsepower? Because that's what a 7875 will do if it's a Gen 2 or 3. Engine Masters tested tri-Y headers. What did they test them on? What motor did they test them on? Richard, does the 8.1 have a cylinder swap? What do you mean? A cam timing swap or a cylinder head swap? Do you use an M12 stubby impact wrench? For what? My 3-valve head would have more flow than a 2V twisted wedge, wouldn't it? I think it would. I think a ported 3-valve flows more than a 2V twisted wedge head does. Because I thought guys were getting the 3-valve head in the, I want to say 330 or 340. And I don't think a 2-valve head goes there, right? But I could also be not remembering correctly. Scavenging in an exhaust manifold, not the easiest question. Minimal to none. It doesn't have any lengths that allow that. $180 header versus 8-into-1. We got 2 more minutes. We're going to close out our poll. 65% are saying, should the 8-into-1 header tubes follow the firing order? 2/3 of the people saying yes. Richard, have you ever tested a 4.2 liter V6? I have not. Does the 8.1 have a swap and firing order like the 7.2 swap? The one that we have in there now has the camshaft that we have in there now is a conventional big block Chevy cam. It's a ZZ502 cam. We need to teach Richard how to TIG weld. That would be great. I'd love to be able to do aluminum. Two V twisted wedge head was over 300 on the intake. That's good. That's a good amount for it. That's a lot for a 2-valve. So you're hopping up the Winnebago? Tell me how they'll follow the firing order. Well, since we're free to do whatever we want with the tubes, they can go in whatever order we want. Just finished my project. LS2 went from 390 wheel horsepower with bolt-ons to 488 with ported LS3 top end and good cam from Texas Speed. Nice. That's a good amount of power. You probably could feel that, right? That's almost 100 horsepower change. It's a 500 horsepower block cracking control on 302. That's something else that I need to revisit. There's no aluminum small block Fords that are going to be cheap and easy to acquire. Any small block Ford aluminum block is going to be an aftermarket one, and it's going to be real money. It's not even going to be anywhere close to being an LS. Richard, what's the other firing order swap that they have for a big block Chevy? You have a 4.7 swap for a big block Chevy. And then you have the firing order for the LS firing order for the 8.1. Looking to make 1,000 wheel horsepower in my Monte Carlo. Do you recommend an iron 6-liter 408 or aluminum 427? I would recommend just using not a 408 or a 427. I would recommend just using a 6-liter because 1,000 horsepower is really easy with a 6-liter. With a cam 6-liter, 1,000 horsepower is very simple. Nailbach TR2X, nice. Mike, I'll check it out. And on that note, it is time to go. I'm happy to be back. Hopefully everybody had a Merry Christmas. That's, it's a good time to be around family and friends, which is always good. But I will be back tomorrow. Zoom.